Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 is about to release soon, but luckily if you already bought the game digitally before its release, then you will have access to the campaign a week early. Personally, I decided to pre-order the game digitally, so I have access to the campaign, which allowed me to play through it. Throughout my playthrough, I was able to get a good feel for the game, so I would like to do a review on the campaign to give some of my thoughts and feelings. Now, just so you know, this video will be completely spoiler free, as I don't want to ruin anything that happens within the campaign that you might want to find out for yourself throughout your playthrough. So that means I'm not going to go in depth on the story of the campaign, and I will not be talking about what happens within the campaign at all. All I'm going to talk about is my general thoughts on the campaign and give what I think are the good, the alright, and the bad about the campaign, again without any spoilers. Also, I should mention I'm going to have only the first mission or two playing within the background of this video, that way I'm not spoiling anything that happens in the important parts later within the campaign. However, if you're someone who doesn't want to see any footage at all of the campaign because you want to experience it yourself, then I would either only listen to this video and not watch it or click off now. With that being said, I want to start things off by answering the question, should you even play the campaign? Well, honestly, I think the answer to that question is yes. You should 100% play the campaign, especially if you're getting it early, then you might as well give it a try. Even if you don't get the campaign early, I still think it's worth playing at some point. I can understand if you're more of a multiplayer kind of person and you want to grind that out first, or maybe you're even more of a zombies kind of person and you want to grind that out first. But regardless of what game mode you prefer more, you should still give the campaign a try. After all, it's fun and you get to experience what I think is a pretty good story unfold. I know the campaign isn't the main portion of the game, so I could see why you would just want to skip over it, and I get that. However, if you have the spare time, then I wouldn't miss out on a few hours of fun. Now, there's no point in sugarcoating it. At the end of the day, it really is just another Call of Duty campaign, so it's not like this big new revolutionary thing. I will say though, they did make a few changes to how the campaign works and plays. It's not exactly like your traditional Call of Duty campaigns, but it's also not vastly different from what you would typically expect. Don't worry, I'll talk more about it later on. Just know, overall, the campaign for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 is fun, and I personally think it's worth it to try it out. Alright, with that question answered, I want to start with all the good this campaign offers. Firstly, I really like the cast of characters within this game. I think that Captain Price and everyone else within Task Force 141 are all really unique and memorable characters. They bring life to the story and make it feel like a worthwhile experience. Also, the new villain for MW3 is the return of Makarov, who I think is a badass villain. He makes the story have meaning and it gives it a good plot. After all, the good guys wouldn't have a purpose if there wasn't a big bad guy to stop. Additionally, I really like the story itself. While I won't get into it, I will say it's a pretty awesome story that's very action-packed. Like most Call of Duty games, it's like you're playing through an action movie. It could be tense, gripping, and make you feel like a badass. I wouldn't say it's the greatest story ever, and it definitely does not come close to any story-driven kind of game, but nevertheless, it's still a good story. Again, the best I can compare it to is a good action-packed movie with a lot of gunfights, explosions, and the whole the heroes have to save the world against the villain kind of plot. So if you're going into this thinking that it's going to be any different compared to your typical Call of Duty kind of story, then you'll be disappointed. But honestly, what do you expect at this point? That's just what Call of Duty is, an action-packed first-person shooter game. Furthermore, I really like the rewards you get throughout the campaign. They have the same system as last year within MW2, where every time you complete a mission, you get some kind of reward for it. That reward can be used for the other game modes like multiplayer, zombies, warzone, etc. The rewards can range anywhere from emblems to calling cards to double XP tokens to even operators and blueprints. I think that these rewards give more reasons to why you should play the campaign, as you can't earn some of these rewards anywhere else. Likewise, visually the game looks really good. I think that the graphics look fantastic, or at least they did on my PC. I would assume it wouldn't be any different on other builds or even on consoles, as I don't have the best PC in the world. Personally, I didn't try maxing out all my settings to the highest they could go, as my settings are tailored more to give me the best FPS in multiplayer. but even at the lower settings, this game looks good, so I would assume on the max settings, this game would be stunning. Moreover, the gameplay itself within the campaign is good. Now, obviously the gameplay is going to stay the same throughout all the game modes, because when I'm talking about the gameplay, I mean the movement, the gunplay, your health, etc. So what you're experiencing in, for example, the multiplayer is really no different in the campaign, as you're not boosting around in one and boots on the ground in the other. But I figured I would just briefly mention a few things that I like overall. Firstly, the movement feels good. Everything feels faster and just way more sped up compared to MW2. From the running, sliding, mantling, tack sprinting, to even the strafing, everything feels like it got a boost and is much more fluid. Also, the gunplay feels good, as the guns don't have much visual recoil and muzzle flash this time around. Within MW2, that was a big thing that sucked about the guns, so it's good that it's been fixed. I should mention the recoil itself on a lot of the guns is actually so minimal that they kind of feel like laser beams. So I mean, that could be a good or bad thing depending on your view. Another part of the gameplay that I really like is the player health has been increased from 100 to 150, so you're able to tank a few more bullets and stay alive for longer. This is a great change for not only the other game modes, but most definitely for the campaign, as a lot of the time you're fighting multiple enemies at a time, so that extra health helps. Moving on to what I think was a big part of the campaign, it was the cutscenes. The cutscenes were really good and made you feel like you were watching a movie. They got you immersed into the story and gave you a lot of shock value. They were probably the best part of the campaign, as I love sitting back and watching the cutscenes to see what happens next and what task was up ahead. They told the story of the campaign very well and again made it feel like I was watching a movie. Finally, the last thing that's good about the campaign was the performance of the game. Overall, I didn't really experience any performance issues other than some frame drops here and there, but other than that, it was good. There really wasn't any crashing or crazy amount of lag. For the most part, it was smooth. So now that I've talked about all the good the campaign has to offer, it's time to talk about the alright things within the campaign. These are things that aren't necessarily the best, but aren't necessarily the worst. To start things off, there's the new open world kind of missions, which honestly felt like glorified co-op missions. Don't get me wrong, they're still fun, but they could sometimes feel like they mess with the flow of the campaign, and some of them are just completed way too quickly. It's like you get the 3 or 4 objectives done, and then that's it, you're finished. They just feel lackluster at times, and they could suck because it messes with the immersion of the campaign and just makes it feel like you're running around completing a checklist instead of going on this intense mission that must be complete in order to help the good guys win. Additionally, the new loadout system just feels like it falls short. While it's cool that I can bring in these weapon blueprints, that's not as cool as being able to build my own custom weapon and bring that in. I feel like it would be so much better if they just had the create a class system instead of this. Pretty much how it works is throughout the campaign, you're able to open up weapon crates, and within these weapon crates are these weapon blueprints that already have attachments on them. You could either take the weapon blueprint and use it, or go to a loadout drop and equip it later on. Of course, the weapon blueprints aren't really the best, so really there's no point in using most of them except for a select few. Honestly, most of the time I just find myself using either what the mission gave me or the ground loot. Finally, the last thing that's alright within the campaign is the difficulty of it. At times it felt like it was just way too easy, and other times it was overwhelming. There just didn't seem to be a happy medium at all. This led to some missions being a breeze, while others I really had to try to be able to complete it. While it's not the worst thing in the world, it still kind of sucked, and I was only playing on the regular difficulty. I can only imagine how bad some of the hard parts can be on the hard difficulty or even on the veteran difficulty. Okay, so now I've talked about both the good and the alright things that the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 campaign has. That means it's time to finally talk about the bad. Firstly, the length of the campaign was honestly disappointing. It was much shorter than any other Call of Duty campaign we've had. I'd say it was maybe about 2 hours shorter than your average Call of Duty campaign, almost making it feel like it wasn't really a full campaign, but rather more of a DLC campaign that was more of just filler content. Likewise, the campaign doesn't feel like it has much replayability at all. Now, given yes, it is just a Call of Duty campaign, so really it's kind of a one and done deal for most people. They will just play it through once and that's it. They won't touch it again. However, I was really hoping with these new open world missions, it would bring more replay value. I thought maybe there would be more stuff to do, like side missions to complete, but that just wasn't the case. So while the campaign is fun to play once, that's really it. I wouldn't touch it again after that. Finally, the last thing that I think is bad about the campaign is it honestly just feels like it's incomplete. The campaign just feels like it was cut short. Like there should have been more, but there wasn't. It's almost like they just did the bare minimum of what a Call of Duty campaign should be, and that's it. It makes the campaign feel rushed, and again makes it feel like it was just filler content in between MW2 and the next Call of Duty Modern Warfare game, which we could safely assume would be MW4. In other words, this game is just setting us up for the next Call of Duty Modern Warfare campaign instead of feeling like its own full-out campaign experience. In conclusion, the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 campaign is, in my opinion, a 6.5 out of 10. It has some good, being that it does have a good cast of characters, the story is good, it rewards you for playing, and more. However, there are some alright things, like the new open world missions, the loadout system, and the difficulty. Then, unfortunately, there's some bad, like the length of the campaign, the fact that there's not much replayability, and how it just honestly feels like the campaign is incomplete. Overall, I do recommend at least giving the campaign a try, as it is fun, and the story that it does offer is at least good. I think that you should at least play it through once when you have the spare time. While it's definitely not the best Call of Duty campaign we've ever got, it still offers at least a few hours of fun, even if it's less hours than we would typically get out of a Call of Duty campaign. I don't think the bad things that I've listed are enough to ruin the campaign, but do keep in mind that what we did get will most likely leave you saying, that's it? So that's why I've given it the score of a 6.5 out of 10. Nevertheless, it's still worth at least trying out, especially if you've been following the story since Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019. You might as well play it to see what happens within the story. While it's definitely not innovative and it is cut short, as I said, this isn't what you're buying the game for anyways, so really I wouldn't stress it. That's it for me though. Have you played the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 campaign? If so, then what are your thoughts on it? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like, and if you want more content like this, then subscribe. Have a great day, everyone.
Heads up! The enemy helo is overhead.
Don't worry, it's focused on the prisoner. Aim for the gun.
Молодцы!
Let's get these guns down and get up there. Get to the tunnel for extraction. We're clear. Let's go. Charlie, we're coming to you now. Take cover. Freeze down. Everybody, let's go. Charlie was supposed to handle that helo. If it was a problem, you should have dealt with it. Follow the cliffside to the water. Our boat will provide covering fire. Shooters on the wall. Ignore them! Get to the boat! Я держу! Командир! Давай, давай, давай!
Пронесло! Мы ваши должники, командир!
Тут нет должников! Есть только преданность! Непоколебимая преданность!